All right, Mr. Mayor, we are ready when you are.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Seldovia City Council, Monday, September 29th. Time is 4:34 p.m. This is another work session. We have one topic. It's the draft comprehensive plan update, and this is the second session on this topic. We did not get through it on the first one last week. Heidi, you got anything to add before we get started?
Mr. Mayor, I would just again introduce Britta Hamry and Danielle Meeker, who is here as well with us tonight. They are both from Alaska Municipal League and have been working closely with us on this forming this draft comprehensive plan. And as you guys are aware, we started this conversation last Monday at a work session prior to a regular council meeting. So this is a follow-up from that. And we do have updated packets. I have just a little bit of additional information per that discussion when it was brought up whether or not the plan had been reviewed before. So there is that red, yellow, green review is on page 75 of the packet. We tried to number these so that it makes more sense. The numbers on the right that says page 1 of 105, page 2 of 105 is the page number of the overall packet. The middle number, especially when AML is talking about the comprehensive plan itself, the middle number towards the beginning of the packet is the number for the draft comprehensive plan itself. So, sorry that is confusing, but the overall packet is that 105 number on the side, and we'll try to make sure to call that out as we continue with this discussion. And with that, unless there's any other questions, I will turn it over to Britta.
Okay, sounds good.
Good afternoon. My name is Britta Hamry. I'm a senior transportation and planning manager with the Alaska Municipal League. Also joining us this afternoon is my colleague Danielle Meeker. I joined you all just a week ago in walking you through the reviewer guide that Danielle had prepared. And while I am eager to hear all your feedback on the plan, Mr. Mayor and Council, my intent for this evening is for us to complete reviewing the table in the reviewer guide that we had included in last week's packet, that I believe is included in this week's packet, to get the council's specific opinion on whether actions that were highlighted by the Planning Commission or by city staff need to be taken for those edits. So with your permission, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for the reviewer guide that includes an updated version that I included for my notes in our meeting last week, your comments, and I'm confirming, can folks see my screen? Yes. So in our discussion last week, the last action that we were able to discuss was L 2.2 commercial use protection. And the conclusion of that discussion last week was to remove this action from the plan, given that it is reflected in the city's code already. I'm happy to review some of our
it's super, yeah, so we're having to look at our packets because it's super tiny on the screen there.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that will be page 66 of your packet. And Britta, before we jump on to the next item, if I could have just a moment.
Please.
So through the mayor, I've thought a lot about this. This has actually sat on my mind for a week. And I mentioned it to the mayor. And I know that we went through this long commercial business district subcommittee process through the Planning Commission. And we've had discussions with the Planning Commission and with the council about the importance of retaining that business district. And it's just sat with me that, we continue to talk about how it's in the comprehensive plan. It's in the comprehensive plan. The desire to support those businesses and see them be successful, and there be a primary business and have a working waterfront. And so I guess it has sat with me. I want to see if the council has had any further thought about if you actually look at page 26 of your packet, you can see the goal for land use two in its entirety. And it does have a follow up to L2 which is L2 3. And there's a typo on the page that we were on, but I'll get back to that. That has downtown revitalization program, and it does talk about encouraging property owners to improve facades, expand outdoor seating and retail displays, and market available commercial spaces to entrepreneurs, identify appropriate partners to make this assistance consistently available to downtown property owners. I know we also discussed, you guys discussed combining some of that language under the economy pillar to be business incentive focused, and exploring those different business focuses, and not just tax incentives, but programs and things that can be supportive. So not wanting to duplicate, but curious if there is space and value to holding on to that desire to support that working front, and maybe combining an L2 and an L2 or L22 and L23 instead of eliminating L22, doing a rewording similar to the city of Seldovia continues to explore programs and policies to support primary business use within the commercial business district with commercial business district property owners, or something to the extent of that partners off of wanting to explore businesses as a whole, supporting business as a whole in a community, but really emphasizing under land use that waterfront district and its importance in wanting to support those businesses within that district. Does that make sense? Are there thoughts on that?
Come on here. Yeah, I know we talked a little bit about that earlier, and my only heartburn last time was when we were starting to get and same when we were doing the ordinance on the waterfront commercial, or the business waterfront business there, about the talking specifically limiting to living upstairs and then getting into a finite percentage of 50 or 51%, whatever it was. There's a lot of things people do to that in terms of being unique in the way they run their business. They put the buildings together. We have a bunch of weird buildings here in Seldovia, no two are the same. People have remodeled and done what they can do within the confines of their space. So I'm fine with, combining those. I just wanted to kind of leave it a little more generalized. I understand the business. Yeah, I'm totally in support of the, making sure that our primary focus is, ensuring that still remains a business district. I just wanted to take the specifics of, referencing a percentage and ground floor space and all that stuff out of there.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yep. I would concur with what you just said. And again, I think we all have in our minds, we have the preference of making sure that our business district is just that. Our business district is business oriented. And so however the wording needs to be to make sure that implication of that is solid, I'm okay with combining the two and keeping them there, as our city manager made reference to. Just again, we've gone over this forever and ever about making sure that the business district, the harborfront, remains as a business first and foremost, and secondly, a residential. So any way that we can put that in words that holds for the future, I'm okay with. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Yeah, and as we're going through this, if we've got a few members of the public here in the audience, and then if we see anybody, Liz, that's got their hand raised throughout, rather than waiting till the end, if you've got a thought that's fresh in your mind, just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Anybody else on council? Any more thoughts, comments? Okay. Oop, go ahead, Harmony.
Yeah, I'll just express my that I agree with you and Ms. Rojas on the integrity of the waterfront business district. I also am not super married to any language that says 48 versus 51 square footage, but maintaining the integrity of our business district does seem like an important piece to the community at large. So yeah, I don't think hindering people's use of the buildings is necessary, but I do like the idea of keeping it in there somewhere.
Okay, I think we captured most. So yeah, your internet connection is a little bit broken.
Yeah. So I guess I'm just saying I agree with you and Vivian's sentiments.
Okay,
Did you hear that?
sounds good. Yeah, we captured that. Thank you, Harmony. All right. If anything else on that on 2.2 and 2.3?
Not for me, Mr. Mayor. If we are handing it back to Britta, I would just say that the next item is labeled L23 for zoning review and updates, and that should actually be L32. And that is on page 66 again of your packet where we left off.
Thank you, Heidi. I really appreciate that note through the mayor. So this action states align zoning codes and the official map with the comprehensive plan vision, ensuring development scale and type fit neighborhood character. The comment that we received from the Planning Commission was, quote, the zoning map and plan development in the 2014 plan caused confusion. How will this be addressed in the 2025 comprehensive plan update to accomplish integration and clarity? So that is, if I may, through the mayor, the comment is a broader philosophical question that we certainly want to address. And so I certainly do not want to limit our conversation on this point. But for the action as currently phrased, if I may request any specific feedback on how this action is currently phrased before we talk about the broader scope of this comment.
Any additional questions, comments from council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. What the comments were from the planning commission, it did our zoning map and the plan development of the 2014 plan did confuse and is continuing to confuse the public and members of the council. So if we can, I'm not really sure if, I think this should be revised, align zoning codes and the official map of the comprehensive plan vision, ensuring development scale and type fit neighborhood character. I think it does need to be revised. The city we have not had a chance or the time to actually move forward in this area. It's caused a lot of confusion, a lot of heartache at different times, but we have not had the time or the chance to actually move forward with what our zoning is in our area already. So I'm a little bit leery of leaving it as stated, but so I would think it needs some revision. I'd be curious of what the other council members feel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Randy, you got a question, comment?
For the record, Randy Sweet. So perhaps one thing to do at this point in time is we know what the zoning code is in the map, the zoning map is in the code, and to actually place into the comprehensive plan. So we're starting where we are. Since we haven't had any discussions about any kind of strategic changes in the zoning map, probably not appropriate to start it in the middle of the comprehensive plan. So then if where we are is in the plan, and then if there are any thoughts about what to do, then there should be community conversations about that. And then whenever it is appropriate to update zoning maps, then that can be done. But right now, I think to just know that with the way our code is today, this is what our zoning map is today. And we don't have any specific strategic plans in place right now to change anything and then deal with it at a later time. And then that way the community knows this is where we are and just to leave it. And then if there's a community will to change that, then there are discussions about that and then move on from there.
Yeah, I think obviously rezoning is a whole nother ball of wax and a long process, and we do need a lot more community input. Yeah, and that unfortunately that is the cross up here, right? We've got some things from the plan that, in 14 that were talked about designated areas around town and what the vision was. Yeah, I don't have a clear path of how where we're at right now, what this looks like on the finished 2025 document, so that it's not super confusing still for people.
I think in the crux of it was that there was a preferred vision, but it wasn't totally bought into by the community, and there was confusion about how that occurred, and not making any judgments about that. But it is a point of confusion, and since it is, and at this point, what we do have that is concrete is the current zoning map, and it would seem that's where we should start, and then have, if there is the will to have a conversation about a different way of the community looking, then that's where you can have a conversation. But otherwise, I think it could create more confusion, and we've got a lot of other things going on that deserve time and effort, and I think we probably want to put our effort into those things and then decide when we know what that alternative view might look like.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good plan. I mean, the comprehensive plan is a combination of, where we're at and where we want to go, right? Versus what's actually in code, in our municipal code right now. So yeah, to get all those married up, that's a process. I mean, and I think it's something that we've been slowly, working on, whether directly or indirectly, because we're always referring back to the comprehensive plan. We just haven't had a super, like you're saying, we haven't had a citywide, big zoning change undertaking. I mean, we're kind of piecemeal it here and there, but there's a lot to do on that, obviously. Heidi, your brain's turning here.
If you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, so
Yeah.
just thinking about this through a planning document perspective and action items, and hearing what Commissioner Sweet has having to say, and what you're voicing back. So maybe the goal is still the zoning review and updates potentially, but the language is that the city will hold, or this is spitballing again, so it'll have to be refined, but the city holds conversation with the community or explores options with the community for review, or even it's just that we're reviewing, like the city will review the zoning map and hold conversation with the community to inform any updates that are needed in the future, and then implement those updates. I don't know. It's not great language, but
no, I get it though. But
there's an action that can be, because it sounds like that's something that still needs to happen, right? That's what I'm hearing, is that we still need to do that. So turning that action into, instead of aligning with codes and a map with the vision, we're going to hold that conversation with the community and create that vision.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. And then, yeah, nothing obviously time certain, but it's just something we have to work on.
I think that would help take care of the confusion piece that Randy was speaking about, because then we're saying we're starting from that scratch, but we have the plan to listen to the community, see what we really want, because that's where even our confusion or contention has been looking back to that and not knowing if that really is the vision still. And so to align with something that we're not sure is the vision would not behoove us in doing our job properly.
Well, and that's beyond the scope in some ways. I
Yeah.
mean, that plan, there were things that were, out of city limits and things that were
Yeah.
not even within the city's scope. So having a really thoughtful process that has the community input and buy-in
Yeah.
to make those.
And that's manageable for something that we can actually work towards with those small goals.
So Britta, did that help or confuse it for you guys?
For the mayor, that is helpful. Heidi, and Commissioner Sweet. I appreciate your comments, and I think that we can revise this action to be focused on future conversations and the role of the city, and get a little bit more specificity than just align zoning codes, and make it clear that that alignment isn't going to be happening without public input. So I think we're in a good place to take the conversation today and draft it into an action that gets to the spirit and intent of today's discussion.
Okay, no, that sounds good. That takes us down to L 3.4, I believe.
Yes, and so this action as currently phrased is create voluntary or mandatory design guidelines for the town center and adjacent neighborhoods to support cohesive aesthetics and compatible building forms. The comment that we received from the Planning Commission is, quote, "This is an additional strategy in zoning code development. Seldovia is focused on land use. This will take the city into aesthetic zoning, regulations focused on the visual aspects of development, and form-based zoning, a zoning approach that emphasizes physical form of buildings over land use. What considerations need to be examined to successfully incorporate the new approaches?"
Who wants to go first on that one? Yeah, I'll throw my 2 cents out there, but
Yeah.
this starts getting a little much, right? I get it. There's planned developments in communities and ways your downtown looks with facades and stuff like that. And in bigger communities, this would be a tough one in Seldovia. And the second you start telling somebody what they have to, how they have to build, what they have to build, that starts getting tough, right? And it starts taking away the kind of a little bit of the uniqueness of what we have going in here. Obviously, nobody wants any junk, and I think that's probably what, you want stuff to be nice, right? And I think for the most part, Seldovia in the last 10, since I've been here, things have really gotten better and cleaned up, and people are, doing a lot of nice things with their properties. So I personally think we're headed in the right direction. I think this one might be a little tough to do anything with myself.
If I may, I would say to remove this action personally. That was my first instinct when I read it. I agree with the mayor. I feel like it's a bit too much, especially as we're talking about that town center. That's our business district, and that's where we're struggling to get folks to come in and run a business and as such. And with the constraints that we have being in Seldovia, it is not easy to always build certain ways or get certain materials or do certain things. And I agree that I think those who own buildings or coming into them are cleaning them up, doing their best to bring, to keep character. I don't see this as somewhere where somebody's built something that you're like, whoa, what is that that's being built? Like, it's kind of, we're an off the road system, kind of funky, fun character. And this may have come from maybe the historic boardwalk and that feeling of like how things had probably looked a little more conformed back then. I'm just taking a guess. Not sure where it came from, but I think that's part of what's fun is, if a new person comes in and they go and, decide to remodel their house or their business, it's going to have their own little flair. But there's a little bit of, we're very much a melting pot for a very small community. And I think that comes across when people come in here. And if we start to say that, you have to meet certain guidelines, I don't think it's going to go well. I think it's going to deter people from buying real estate in those areas. And I think it would be really hard. And what would that look like?
Yeah, I think when you when you live in a large city and you're, in an HOA or you're in a super, strict business environment or something, I get it. But yeah, it's a little different over here, given our constraints and resources and everything that we
Sometimes you
have.
can only get what you can get on the sunny day that you can do it.
Yeah. Yep.
And your plan changes.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yep. Go ahead, Vivian.
I would agree. I would agree that should be removed. I think our ordinances and our planning department and also our permits for building structures. I think within our ordinances, we can take care of this. I think this is overreach and it's something we don't need to have in our comprehensive plan. I would remove it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Thank you, Vivian. Anyone else opposed to removing this item?
No, Mr. Mayor, but if I may, you do kind of already have it in there if you are combining the L2 and L22 and L23 to say you're going to work with people to create programs and policies to enhance and incentivize that district. So in a way, you already have it in there. It's just it's a broader, maybe more friendly way of working with individuals to help better that district or enhance that district in a way that's a partnership.
Yeah, there's certainly a little bit of overlap there on intent and how you do it, but this one's obviously very, very specific on what it's looking at. So I agree with council. I think this one gets removed and then we continue on. Britta, you guys are good? Oh, Jack, go ahead.
What I wouldn't want to see, I know it doesn't.
It's not lighting up.
I don't know if this is the right. But I don't want to let the city, main part of the city, turn into allow a junkyard to be parked in front of their business. So it has to have some teeth in it, but not necessarily tell them how the aesthetics of what building they want to build, but not, that would be my only concern is that the ordinance is too loose and pretty soon we end up with an undesirable. Because I've seen things happen on.
Yeah, I think that's where the abatement ordinance and then some of the other stuff comes in too, is to make sure that we're keeping things clean. Yep, agreed. Randy?
Question. I think this came from the public and I wonder if Britta has any information in terms of any specific concerns that came from the community. One thing that I don't know if it was of a concern with the community, but let's say keeping trees or vegetation, sometimes things get pretty well cleared out on land. So it's how does it look, and not just in the business district, but throughout our community, those kinds of things. So just asking for if there were any specific concerns, and then, as Commissioner Barber, Councilmember Barber mentioned about, how particular lots are cleaned. Is there anything else that we're missing in terms of any concerns from the community in terms of this particular topic?
Back to what my comment was, is there's a lot of places where you have garbage dumpsters. They will build some screening or fencing around the undesirable things, so that the public doesn't have to view it. So like, fuel drums sitting out and garbage. I think if I was going to do anything, I'd say, okay, you have to have some kind of a screener enclosure to protect the unsightly things, on Main Street,
Right.
That's all because I've seen this a lot of places. You can have a dumpster, but you got to have a fence around it. Same way. just to take care of the undesirable things in the middle of the town. and
Yeah,
stuff.
no one wants to look at everybody's stack of trash
Yeah,
bags, you know, with the
exactly.
birds getting into them and yeah, no, for sure. Britta, I don't know if you copied all that, but do you recall any other concerns out of that that item on L34 from the public?
Yes, so no specific concerns, and while I echo the sentiment of not wanting of dumpsters and such, wanting to have those be aesthetically pleasing and hygienic, that no specific concerns. I think the maintenance of character came up quite a bit in the 2014 plan, as well as some of the public feedback we've received thus far. However, that does not require the action as currently phrased in order for the maintenance of community character in buildings to be emphasized as a value of this plan. And so some of the specifics that I'm hearing now, I think are important and worth noting, but perhaps aren't at the level of what should be included in the comp plan update. And so I guess I wanted to clarify, I have heard from quite a few of you all that having the design guidelines action as currently phrased, we should remove it from the plan.
Yeah, I think that's accurate because we got to remember too, we enforce this document by ordinance, right? We create our ordinances to make sure that we're trying to meet the intent. So if we want nice aesthetic, buildings on in town and we don't want to look at trash and stuff, we do that by ordinance and we can mandate what those things are. So they don't have to be that specific in this plan. So I think Britt is right. There's a lot of things that point us in the right direction, what the community wants, what the council wants, what planning wants. So I think we're doing just fine on that. So any objections to that? Okay. All right. Sounds good. I think we're good, Britta, with removing L 3.4 and moving on down to L 4.2.
Yes, for L 4.2, historic preservation and cultural heritage. The action as currently phrased is secure iconic locations like the Orthodox Church site for permanent public use, creating places like Memory Grove Park to honor Seldovia's history and culture. Planning Commission comment we received is there is no longer a Parks and Rec group who used to champion these efforts, something that we have talked about last week, as well as in conversations with the Planning Commission, the city, and the public, is that action items should be within the scope of the city. And so I am eager to hear from you all of what either within the city organization or what entity in town might be a champion that we should include in this plan in order for this action to be achieved, or if there is any revision that you all would like to see for this action.
You want me to take the first crack? I think this makes sense. I mean, I totally get this. Yeah, just because we don't have a Parks and Rec in my mind, it would, fall on the community, i.e. going through either planning, the city council, if the city of Seldovia sees something. I don't know who the specific champion would be, but this would be kind of a group effort among a lot of different folks in the community, to identify these and, bring some sort of positive action forward, to try to basically bring this to fruition. So
Would it be just to kind of reword it in that sense of that the city is kind of the eyes to look for these pieces of properties? They should become like held as to honor something or something for the Seldovia culture or history that we don't want it to lose. And then our role as a city is to identify them when we see them and then find a partnership that will help with that, whether it's art council, chamber. I think of kind of like how like the SOC and the city, have partnership, or the arts council and the city currently, would have partnership on projects or things. And that would be kind of our role in that. It wouldn't be, it'd just be the identification part and making sure we hold it. But then as far as like moving forward on making it that historical piece, like having the stuff there, for people to see and maintaining it or something would be a partnership, maybe.
I mean, it makes sense. Liz, you got a comment? Oh, yep. Harmony, go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, yep. So, I guess similar execution, different approach as Ashley. In recent years, as long as I've lived here, we haven't had an active Parks and Rec. And we really just don't have the capacity to fill another board. Because let's face it, it's going to be the same 5 people who are on every other board. I feel like what's worked really well for us as a community has been, as somebody identifies something that could or should be maintained, fixed, or created, they brought it forward to the whoever they deem appropriate at the time, whether it be the SOC, the Arts Council, the Chamber, the city itself, and they pulled together a group in order to facilitate that work. And it's worked really well for the community. I don't know if the city specifically needs to put another thing on their docket that says we're going to be in charge of naming specific things, but just maintaining. I feel like the status quo has worked really well for us, right? Like the community has identified that the pavilion over on Susan Lake was in need of some TLC. It worked to have SOC put an effort towards that. We decided who was going to pay who. It was going to be in kind with the city, blah, blah. And it looks great down there. How about the mural on the over on the firehouse, or any bench in town, or even the park mentioned over there, the oh, I can't think of his name right now, the weatherman, the gardener guy. Either way, the Duck Pond Park. Different sites are gonna inspire different views, different motivations, and different funding sources. And I think aside from obvious city-owned property, allowing the community to have its own inspiration has worked really well for us. I guess that's just my really long-winded way of saying I don't think we need to allocate a specific entity towards anything like that. I think the way it runs is fine. If it's a city or public property, it should be discussed in some form at the city level. But other than that, I don't think we need to try to start enforcing or controlling the conversation.
Through the mayor. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
What I was going to say was, this is one of the L4-2 might be one of the items that do we really need to put that on the burden? And I say the word burden of one more thing that the city takes on if someone brings it up. I'm not really sure if this needs to be, as other council members have said, needs to be actually identified. And the other part of this, where we secure iconic locations like the Orthodox Church as a permanent public use. I'm not really sure what we're saying. The Orthodox Church is its own entity, and if someone came to us, as Councilmember Harmony had said, comes to the city and asks if we'd like to want a partnership help out, that's one thing. But I don't think we need to identify and have this document list one more thing that the city should be responsible for. So I would actually say, let's take it out. I think it's covered in other areas. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
just a suggestion, perhaps instead of removing, if you guys want to remove it, that's great. But thinking about how Harmony's spoke to how it has worked, and hearing Councilmember Payne talking about how it has worked, and hearing Councilmember Keithley talk about our partnerships, and that is a priority of the council is maintaining partnerships and collaboration. and maintain the historic boardwalk. I mean, we do have Susan Lake. We have these areas that we've talked about. We've talked about doing a Seafarers Memorial moving forward. So there seems like there may be value in having a call out to historic preservation and cultural heritage, but maybe it's the language that can be changed instead of securing iconic locations, where maybe we go back to that. We're maintaining historic preservation and culture in support of partnerships like the Orthodox Church site for permanent public use, da 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 da. And then, you could leave that example even in there, but going back to the action is to maintain what we have, as well as to partner with and move forward with those partners and preserving that culture and heritage.
Yeah, I think leaving it more generalized, I think leaving it in and leaving it more generalized like that, rather than putting more onus specifically back on the city makes sense. Obviously, in a larger community, you would have, they all have historic preservation committees to work on these type things. We do not. So, yeah, I would agree with, what Harmony said. Yeah, it's the way it's worked in the past. Somebody's going to pick up the ball and spearhead that. And then sooner or later, it's going to run, end up in front of planning or council. So, yeah, I'm fine with that if we can leave that, much more generalized. But I think it's important to have the call out for historic preservation and cultural heritage.
Yeah.
So without getting too pinpointed on it.
I mean, the boardwalk improvements is one of your CIP items, and this feels like this would fit in there with your guys' prioritization for maintaining that infrastructure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even working on projects to expand that.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I'm
If you
not
guys-
against preserving things. I'm just against language that precludes somebody else from taking it on, or might feel prohibitive to somebody who doesn't understand the intent behind language.
Yeah, no, understood what both you and Vivian were saying, and a lot of it makes sense all the way around, and that's why I think we can clean that up. Britta, did you got where we were going with that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. And so I guess I want to clarify, if I may, through the mayor, that instead of secure iconic locations, we'll work on wordsmithing something about the city being in support of preservation and being available for partnership for other entities who identify those projects.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Perfect.
Thank you. Moving us on to our transportation section, our first transportation action, 1.1, Alaska Marine Highway Sustained Service. The action as currently phrased is work with AMHS to secure a new freight and passenger vessel in Kachemak Bay, ensuring year-round, cost-effective, and timely service. The comment that we received from the Planning Commission was the State of Alaska Testing Meter Replacement Vessel project is now likely to be delayed as long as 2030. RFP is now expected to be released this fall. And so I am eager to hear folks' comments on the current phrasing of this plan. And I guess I just encourage to have the framework that of what is within the city's role and locus of control in regards to AMHS. And to keep that in mind, that there's obviously a strong need for consistent, reliable, cost-effective, year-round ferry service, but what is the city's role? And if that's advocating for, encouraging, etc. But to make sure that this is, should you want to keep this action in the plan, that it is an action that the city can take. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Britta. Yeah, obviously this has to stay in. This is critical to our survival, and basically to make sure that there's no lack of action. That's why we've always had the city at the forefront of this. Certainly there's community members that will can call in and testify and offer their public support, but at the end of the day, the city has to advocate for continued ferry service year round for the community. Anyone else, any thoughts, comments on that, Ashley?
I think maybe it's just rewording it because when you say work with them to secure a new freight and passenger vessel, we don't really have the control in that aspect of like helping them secure, and that's obviously what the planning commission's comment was, kind of like, this is it's happening, but it's like there's nothing that we directly can do as a city to make that happen more. We can just keep advocating for the importance as the project keeps getting pushed out, or if there's other opportunities, that might be something to put in there because this project keeps getting pushed out. Or every year when we talk about the RFPs going out for us to have supplemental service, I don't know if that's in another transportation one, but that might be something more to put in here, because that's something we have control of as a city, is the supplemental service. We don't have control over them securing and building the new vessel. We can just advocate that we want that to happen and we want it to be able to serve us still.
Yeah, I think it's the level of service, right? I think that's where our focus needs to be, is to make sure we don't lose our level of service. And when I say that, I'm still not convinced that 3 days a week is the end all of everything. I mean, when I say level of service, I mean, if it's once or twice a week regularly year round, then that's great. Knowing that there's still a dry dock period, I get that. But yeah, I mean, there's been a number of battles since I've been here where we've had to fight to keep that thing coming in here, for where they were just going to whack us off the schedule there for 6 months or whatever the case may be. But yeah, so I think that's the main thing is, I think it's good. The vessel's coming, now it's we've got to make sure that it's still gonna, and I haven't paid enough attention or got into the details enough to know if this new vessel in its current design is going to fit on our dock.
Don't know.
It's supposed to.
Yeah.
Okay.
We keep getting told, I keep reiterating every time I talk to AMHS that it needs to, and we keep getting told that it will. Our dock improvements are included in the long range plan. And that's something that we've also been in discussion with. So that could be something that's included here as well. That AMHS advocacy and supplemental service, as well as maintaining, ensuring dock facilities are improved and maintain a level of safety for that service. And we're actively working on that now. It is in your CIP. We do have those inspections done by the state regularly, and we coordinate with them on that. So,
well, and would that strengthen our cause when we're telling them we want to continue to have service, that it's part of a comprehensive plan that we are going to keep up our dock to be able to receive that service?
Yeah, basically it's included in all of our plans. So
Yeah,
we
exactly.
need to make sure. Yeah, no, I think the action wording needs to change for sure to be a little more relevant on what we're actually doing. So, and I think we can pretty much all agree on that. Heidi, you might have to work with Britta a little bit on finessing some of that language, but I think we can do better than that for sure.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I, through the mayor, both Danielle and I are taking notes. So I think we'll take a pass at wordsmithing and then bring that to Heidi's attention. And Danielle, if you have comments on your notes, but what I am hearing is that we include language that says advocate for year-round cost-effective timely service, as well as perhaps a new action is ensuring the dock facility improvements happen. We'll take language from the CIP, other existing documentation of the dock improvements, and that the maintenance of the safety of those facilities to be compatible with AMHS vessels, perhaps as its own action item, distinct from the advocacy for year-round cost-effective and timely service. But we can work on wordsmithing that further. But that is what I'm capturing now from this conversation.
Yeah, I think generally you got that pretty good, and for the most part, the community is pretty aligned on this one. So, Yeah, we might all disagree on, how many days a week or whatever, but other than that, I think as long as it carries cars and can bring a trailer and pieces of equipment over, we're good. So. And get a cheeseburger every once in a while. All right. Any other comments on that one before we move on? Okay.
Hey. Our next action item, transportation 2.3, land use compatibility. Maintain clear zoning and height restrictions in the airport vicinity to ensure safety and operational viability, while encouraging ground leases and partnerships for hangars, maintenance facilities, and aviation-related businesses. The comment that we received from the Planning Commission was, who is responsible for inspecting and trimming trees to maintain aviation safety standards around the Seldovia Airport? I think, perhaps our theme of this review is what is it within the city's scope of control, and what can the city enforce? So if we look at this action item, should this be revised or removed? And if it is revised, how can we frame it to be more specific to the city's jurisdiction? Thank you.
Just for those who aren't doing a side by side with the plan in its entirety, Mr. Mayor, if I may, this is, while it says land use compatibility and it talks about the airport, that is a little bit confusing because under transportation, goal T2 overall is retain the airport and enhance air services. So anything in the T2 section is airport related. So while that doesn't call it out in the header of the goal, this is specifically referencing airport services.
Yeah, and I think what we've got here. Obviously, there's a number of things, right? We're talking operational need, making sure our trees, we've got a clear flight path. That I'm not a pilot. We got a pilot sitting right here, but yeah, we see what it takes to get in and out of Seldovia, and I'm sure there's some, working with the FAA or whoever that is. But and then obviously. When we start talking about encouraging ground leases, partnerships for hangars, maintenance facilities, aviation related businesses, I think that's critical. And I think we've just in the last couple of years here, we've seen some good growth at our airport here now with some new facilities going in. And I think there's a lot more room going forward to do other things there. So yeah, we can wordsmith that, but.
Yeah, we can wordsmith them, Mr. Mayor, but I guess I'm a little bit confused as the planning commission was, and that is who is responsible for, the city of Seldovia can write resolutions, they can write concerns to the FAA or whoever about the clearing zone and the height restrictions and all that. But that's my question. Who is responsible? What is the city's responsibility? We don't really have any as far as clearing zones and safety and operational viability, do we?
Is that DOT, Jack, or who?
It's in the hands of the DOT and the FAA for the most part. The FAA came out here. I pointed out that we could clear some trees out to the east to make the center line approach to 3-4 more user friendly. And when I talked to the DOT, they said that with a displaced threshold, we can shorten and then the glide slope. So that was their idea how to fix a problem. Is let's just shorten the runway, okay? So that the glide slope. I can't hardly get my head around that, but that's so until we really start making some noise about it. And I talked to Sarah Vance. I was going to have her come over and say, hey, the DOT owns the property. We could do a hold harmless agreement to the state that we've got people around here that would cut the timber off so that the approach course in and out of the runway would be more user friendly, just from safety alone. Because when the wind's blowing, you get a lot of turbulence coming over the tide trees and that, and it's just not necessary. The thing could be way better than what it is, but they got a 400-foot displaced threshold, so the glide slope, so they can miss the trees out there instead of cutting the trees down.
Obviously, there wasn't a lot of pilots talking about that from the DOT.
No, I mean, it needs to be addressed. We can make the runway better than it is. And if there's when I spoke about building a boardwalk from Cedar Street around that clump of trees over there, just to cut the tops out of them, because the center line alignment with the runway goes right into that island of trees. And, you could make a hedge bush out of them and drop 20, 30 feet out of the top of them and make a big difference. But now you zigzag in around them to, and it's not, sometimes there's a crosswind and a lot of turbulence, so you use a lot more runway. It kind of doesn't matter which way you're landing. That's all I got to say about that.
Randy?
So kind of coming back to the responsibility in terms of the zoning, like our zoning code, does it apply to the public lands there, or does it not apply? It does apply. So just so that we have clarity around that. Okay, thank you. And then I guess just from a safety standpoint, we had the accident that happened in, previously with Smoky Bay, and it's like, we don't need another accident. So I would just say, not as my, I don't know, as my role as a citizen of Seldovia, and I guess as a planning commissioner, I would just ask if the city of Seldovia could do a resolution in support of getting those trees taken care of. Because if we know that there's a hazard and there's a solution to it, we should get it fixed.
Yeah, I agree. This is one of those things you don't want to look back and, after somebody gets killed and go, man, we talked about it and just no one, DOT wasn't interested and we didn't push it enough, and certainly like you say, Jack, if we know it can be better, we should be advocating for it to get better.
Yeah. And I want to talk to Sarah Vance again, because we need maybe some of that representation. I've talked to her about it. I said, I'd like you to come over here so I can physically show you the alignment on the runway. And even Hugh Smith, that owns the property on the other side of the state property, said it would be good to cut his trees down too. So you got a neighbor right there that'll allow you to cut the timber down on his own property. But the states felt like they wanted some kind of hold harmless agreement. So if I go cut the timber off there and I get hurt, that I'm not going to sue the state of Alaska. And if we can address that, I think that maybe Sarah Vance can and have some input in the thing, and maybe we can get the DOT to allow us to cut there's no sense in it being the way it is.
Yeah, and I think ultimately the city, needs to spearhead this, and we as, council members need to put our weight behind that and try to get something going.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, through the mayor, obviously this is the safety of the airport facility is a critical issue to the community. Am I off mark if I suggest that we rephrase this action to be, the city works with state of Alaska to identify for maintenance of clear zoning and height restrictions around the vicinity of the airport, and then perhaps bringing together state, private owners, and city interests to make sure that this facility is up to appropriate safety clearances for the needs of the community.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where we want to go with that. Everybody good with that? Okay.
Hey,
We'll keep that and it'll be revised.
thank you. Through the mayor, now we are moving on to our next section with R 1.5, mitigate negative environmental impacts from development. The action as currently phrased is require environmental review of developmental proposals and ensure that unavoidable impacts are offset through mitigation or direct compensation to affected stakeholders. Planning Commission comment we received is environmental review by whom? And is it all developments or a certain magnitude of development?
Through the mayor, just I hope you guys don't mind me interrupting so much. I'm trying to be the brain behind, trying to hold all the knowledge of the workings of the planning commission and the council at one time. And realizing that the planning commission is working on a topographical impacts component to the building permits. I know that the council referred this to the planning commission a while ago. It came back to council. There were a lot of follow-up questions to that. So it did go back to the planning commission. And it's been revised since to update the building permit process to include site development, which maybe is not, I don't know if that's exactly where they were going with environmental review, but it sounds like when we're talking about unavoidable impacts, are offset through mitigation or direct compensation to affected stakeholders. It brings to mind the fact that the purpose and the intent of those site development standards and having that piece incorporated into the building permit is to limit impact to neighbors. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe environmental review is too strong of a language. That's definitely something we would do for bigger projects, but when we're talking about development on a smaller scale, making sure that there are mitigation practices in place that limit harm or impact to neighbors is definitely been on the minds of the council and the commission.
Yeah, the easy one that comes to mind is drainage, right? So the valley's got all kinds of problems up there with new subdivisions going in, old timers sneaking them in, new developers putting them in and not having a lot of real robust review on them. And then you get instead of 100-year flood, you get a 5-year flood or a 1-year flood. Now you got entire housing communities below them around and they've diverted creeks, they've done all kinds of stuff. They got the same thing going on in Girdwood. They got it all over the place. So I think from our standpoint of view, obviously good thing we don't have a lot of creeks running through town here. We do have a few, but we should probably, environmental is probably a little harsh, if you will. I think we can wordsmith that, but yeah, understanding that, runoff. So I'm sure there's more that aren't coming to mind here, but runoff's an easy one to talk about. But site development, as long as we've got that in our code somewhere, and if we've got a statement, in our plan that says, yeah, we're cognizant about that, then
yeah. It's not in your plan, or it's not in our ordinance. It's not in your ordinances yet. So this could be a really great short project, that short-term project that you're continuing to work on. And then just having that statement in there as a placeholder as we move forward to the importance and relevance of that. Could have value since that's something you guys are actively working on through the commission.
Yeah, I think when you say some negative environmental impacts from development, that by itself seems fine. But then I mean, yeah, obviously we're not looking for a NEPA on, someone putting in a outhouse or a shed or something. So we want to be careful how, I think we need to just wordsmith that to where it makes a little more sense and for what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and just different projects around the acreage. You can't develop property where you're going to shed the water onto your neighbors. That's probably the number one issue that you have to deal with. Sometimes it's height restrictions because of view blocking and things, but normally it's always about drainage. So you can't create, do your project to create the neighbor leaving with all the runoff. So
yeah.
So going back to the planning commission's question of who would be the one reviewing that's I think we need to kind of answer that question because I was going to say when it comes to permitting, that's why our permitting is so like small scale because we don't have a whole staff for doing that. So making sure either answering that question or putting in that needs to be part of the plan. But like you can't just enact this without having the capacity to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if someone was going to come in and do a major type development, then we'd have to hire an outside engineering firm to come in and do a consult for sure to make sure that, the proper, storm drain, all that stuff was addressed. I mean, we don't have the expertise to deal with that. So
I can't wait till you guys see the ordinance.
Yay.
You guys want a sneak peek? It's in the planning packet for Wednesday.
Okay. All right. So I think a little bit of wordsmithing here, and we can. Again, this might be another one, Heidi, where you will have to work with Britta to come up with something that makes sense here.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor for goal R2, support renewable energy and energy efficiency improvements. As currently stated, that goal is energy costs in Seldovia are high and residents support integrating renewable and efficient systems to lower costs and reduce environmental impact. Planning Commission comment was to add provide safe, dust-free bicycle routes to reduce car and four-wheeler use. Our question for the council today is, should this be included in a new or existing action, the safe, dust-free bicycle routes to reduce car and four-wheeler use? And if it should be included as a new action or folded into an existing action, would it be preference of the council for it to go under the resilience or transportation buckets?
Well, go ahead.
Through the mayor, and Heidi, I know we talked about the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, and so there might be some synergies. Hopefully we hear about the funding on that by the time that we're doing the final draft of this plan, and so that is perhaps an opportunity for consistency across planning language. But I will stop speaking now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so the reality of this, right, is we have very limited blacktop in Seldovia, and even that's going to get dusty unless, we've got a street sweeper going all the time, et cetera, et cetera. There's no way we can ensure dust free. It's just not reality. There's not enough calcium chloride on the peninsula to take care of this little issue around here when it gets hot and dusty in the summertime. So I'm not, that would have to go out. That's a kind of a non-starter for me. Should the creation of bicycle routes be included in a new or existing action? We don't even have anything to do with our pedestrians right now. So, I don't really know how we're going to deal with our bikes at the moment.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep.
It is already T 3.7 pedestrian and bike network expansion. Extend ADA accessible sidewalks and alternative pathways, linking neighborhoods with key destinations and ensuring year-round usability. So not necessarily four-wheelers, but certainly that pedestrian and bicycle piece is an action item within the plan.
Okay. It doesn't have the dust free in there though, does it?
Not dust-free, no, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm actually confused, Mr. Mayor. So the goal is support affordable renewable energy and energy efficiency improvements, and then the next energy costs in Seldovia. So are we not talking about those two columns as far as supporting affordable renewable energy? That's huge for Seldovia. So the question I guess I'm having, are we talking about supporting alternative energy and renewables for the city of Seldovia, or at least expending energy to research that, or partnership to reduce the costs in Seldovia, which I would say, yes, that would be important to do. So I'm confused by why we're talking about bicycle routes.
Yeah, it
If
almost seems like these got mixed up. Go ahead, Britta. Maybe you've got something there.
This is where we received this comment.
Oh,
And so that's why there are paths. As Heidi mentioned, there is language about safe routes for bicycles. I I'm assuming too much into the intent of the commenter, but that perhaps that reducing energy costs by having non-motorized transportation systems, I believe is the intent of the commenter, that if folks have safe transportation that doesn't require them to, fill up their car or four-wheeler to get around, then that is a reduction in energy costs for the individual. But that if we like looking at next section or the next goal, incentives for energy efficiency, is a bit more to the heart of the supporting renewable energy and energy efficiency programs. So this is where we received this comment, and that is my interpretation of why the commenter made this comment for this section, but that we do in the transportation section.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Appreciate the opportunity for clarification. Thank you.
Okay, so then on R2, yeah, the piece about the bicycle and the pedestrian, that's already in plan in T3. Okay, so that's in plan. So I think we can leave that alone. I think R2 and R2.3, when we start talking about renewable energy and then creating local incentives for home and business owners to improve energy efficiency, could we combine those kind of? Are they distinctively separate, or could those be combined?
Actually, my question.
I have,
Go ahead, Jack.
what are you qualifying renewable energy?
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm confused because goal R2 is the overarching header for the second goal under resilience. And then R2, it's hard without looking at the whole plan, the big picture. So there's 3 that are under there, and maybe those ones can be looked at for combining, but they all what I'm trying to say is R2.3 is actually under R2. It's a action plan under the goal.
Okay.
So the goals are R2, and that's a little different because the rest of the conversation has been focused on action items, whereas we're actually talking about a goal here, which is the header, and then R2.3 is underneath. That makes more sense. So not necessarily combining, but this is a part of that goal.
Okay, and then to go back to answer Jack's question, I think it was probably intentionally left a little bit vague here, and certainly this could get interesting. Like if we put this on here, then all of a sudden we got applications for 40 windmills popping up here or wind generators. That could be a problem, right? So,
right. So if we go to page 38 of your packet, you can see that goal in its entirety. Goal R2, support affordable renewable energy and energy efficiency improvements. And so for action items under goal R2, there's 3. The first is explore renewable energy opportunities, and that states collaborate with Homer Electric Association, state energy programs, and private providers to evaluate feasibility of tidal, wind, and solar projects, as well as battery storage. That's something that we already currently do. Our 2.2, expand energy efficient infrastructure, and that's install EV charging stations, promote energy efficient heating systems, and explore low emission community shuttle services for events and elder transport. That's probably a pretty big ticket for the city. If that's something we want to explore, that's going to take a lot of manpower and partnerships and collaborations. That's a big scope project there. And then R2.3, incentives for energy efficiency, create local incentives for home and business owners to improve energy efficiency through insulation upgrades, appliance replacement, or weatherization programs. So that's what the plan is stating. Those are the action items that will support affordable renewable energy and energy efficiency improvements.
okay, yeah, when you go back to the plan and read those specifically like that makes a little better sense. I'm not a super big fan of installing EV charging stations, The better technology is the plug-in hybrids for Alaska. That's really the only way to go. It doesn't make sense to have I mean, if you want it, great, more power to you, but buying a 100% electric vehicle in this state makes zero sense to me at all. The plug-in hybrids, you'll get 600-700 miles, and you can plug them in with an extension cord. So you can plug them in anywhere. So that to me is that's the best deal going. I would not want to see any of our money go to, yeah, that would be a big ask. And I would not be in favor of installing an EV
I
charging
would say
station.
because we're also not just Alaska, but being off the road system, I always talk about redundancy of like always keeping in mind having having multiple options to make things run. Like in my house, like not having everything on electric or everything on oil. And so that goes the same way. If you're going to go to an electric vehicle, the hybrid version would be something to make more sense for us to encourage, because if we're cut off from electricity, then your electric car doesn't work, but and vice versa. If we run out of oil supplies, like then you're not relying on just one resource or the other.
Yeah, and I think just, I mean, that's my personal feelings. That's where we're at in time. Obviously, the United States of America can't even support full going to an entire EV economy right now. Their transportation system, we would collapse the world mineral market if we did that. So, great concept, but not going to happen. So the hybrids would be good. So I don't know what you guys want to do for that R2.2.
And
I'd like to see that go away myself.
and I think there's a federal program for like windows insulation as a tax benefit or something already in place to address possibly that. I don't know what the.
Yeah, usually there's all kinds of grant programs
Yeah.
and stuff like that are good ones. Yeah, Randy?
Just so that it's in the conversation, when HEA was here, the gentleman who was in charge of HEA is telling us that he doesn't see renewable energies being supported during this administration, that a lot of the grants and things have been cut out. I think the weatherization and the other types of programs, I believe those things are going to end in 2025. And there's some of the vendors are having commercials on TV. So it might be a good idea to find out what that actually is. And if we're trying to encourage people, it might be encouraging to, if they're considering it, they may want to do it this year if they can, because that opportunity may be gone. So that it's just a part of what's happening. And so how does that impact? Do we understand what the environment is and how that might impact what our planning is in terms of our comprehensive plan?
Yeah, I think it's hard to weigh yeah, we know where some of these things are politically right now. It'd be hard I wouldn't want to factor any of that. I mean, that can change pretty quickly. But yeah, no, I mean, I think generally, I think most people support, some form of renewal. I mean, solar panels are, good at times. Wind farms are good at times, depending on where you're at in Alaska. I mean, there's certainly a lot of these things that do make sense based on your geographic location. So, Heidi?
Through the mayor, then is that a language shift? We've been talking about this quite a bit with different entities and organizations, and even some of the federal departments when we talk about grants and projects. Maybe it's a language shift from affordable renewable energy to cost reduction, right? So we're talking about reducing the cost of energy or energy costs and building in those redundancies, and having that support and advocacy versus necessarily affordable renewable energy. And am I way off track here?
So it says explore renewable energy opportunities, right? Collaborate, and then it talks about the feasibility study, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all these make sense. I mean, every one of them does make sense. They might not just make sense for I mean, title's amazing, right? Seldovia would probably be killer for tidal generation. Maybe we got too much current going. I don't know, but I mean, there's any number of these that work on small scales for people.
Right. Well, even when you're talking about collaborate with Homer Electric Association, that's something that we've been more collaborating with them, is to build in that redundancy and have the fiber come across, so that we have a loop and that we have better resilience. You know, we're under the resilience part of the plan, because we have connectivity from both ends. You know, so maybe that's, I mean, not to completely reinvent this section, but I'm thinking about the things that we are actively working on. They've talked about, if they were able to do that, that they would put batteries here, for energy storage, and that potentially, if we had that fiber, that we could look at some other renewable options. But right now in Seldovia, on a grand scale, with the limited power that we have, that's not necessarily something that we could do on a larger community scale, is what we're hearing. But that advocacy to bring that fiber in and build those redundancies, reduce those costs, have that battery storage, right, has that impact of cutting costs for energy, and potentially moving towards affordable renewable energy. So I don't know if that helps in the conversation, but just thinking, even with that collaborating with Homer Electric Association, it feels like there could just be a little bit of rewording on each section to align with what's currently happening, and to make a little bit more, you know, of a shift of cost efficiency and cost reduction, and mitigating hazards. You know, those are the language we keep hearing, that's being supported at this moment. Not to say we want to shift plans every time we have a new administration, but that is where we're at. Britta, are you getting what I'm saying? Sorry, that's confusing.
Yes, I think, Heidi, perhaps overarching, it is that this resilience section isn't a renewable energy section, but renewable energy, as based on this conversation and what is in the current plan draft, that renewable energy is one of the tools for the city of Seldovia, for the community to achieve resilience. And so the earlier comment about having redundancy in the system, that renewables are means of achieving that redundancy for Seldovia's energy use on both the individual and community scale. And then I do just want to note the earlier comment made about the federal grants that are available. Looking at the review guide table R2.3, this comment from the Planning Commission is accurate in that the end of this calendar year is the end of a lot of federal programs to support those incentives for individuals and business owners to adapt either, you know, renewable or weatherization upgrades to reduce energy independence. And so while I'm not going to claim to have a crystal ball, we do know that by the end of this calendar year, some of those programs that were previously going to sunset in 2035 are now ending. So the availability of those programs is not going to happen starting in 2026. So I just want to state that for consideration. But Heidi, back to your broader comment, I think we don't have a crystal ball, nor do we want the city to have to update a comprehensive plan with the change of a federal administration. The goals as outlined are, consistent and not, I don't think are not meant to be responsive to national politics, but that there is certainly a shift in funding available and for renewable energy programs, but that this isn't a renewable energy plan. This is the resilience section, and renewable energy is listed as one of the tools to achieve resilience for the city of Seldovia.
Randy, you got a comment?
Yeah, just, so I would never want to, discourage, looking into the future for opportunities. It's just, what I would just say is, what is it that is possible in terms of what can be done? And then if it's not with federal funding, which has been kind of the underpinning of renewable energy development in our country thus far, then what is it that might be able to be done? Obviously as a city, we can't afford to do major projects on our own for renewable energy, but there may be some things out there that we could do or could encourage. So I think from a comprehensive planning standpoint, looking at renewable energy as a resilience factor is a good thing. And then understanding what our current conditions are so people know that if they're interested in doing something, it might behoove us to let people know so that if they are even considering it and it's important to them, they might act now versus finding out that there won't be any funding in the future for at least for a while.
Yep. Those are all good points. Okay, so how do we clean this up?
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
I think Danielle and I can take a pass looking at the resilience goal and making the use of renewable energies as one of the tools available and to be considered to achieve resiliency. For the R 2.3, I think I'm hearing correctly that the city is not in a position to fund these incentives at this time, or that there would need to be further consideration on how this program would be funded. And so it seems like there might be a move to remove this specific action since the mechanisms of how this would be achieved on this part of the city isn't clear, and that that might be an HEA led action rather than the city led action.
Through the mayor, or we could even, if there was a desire to keep it, updating it to, instead of we're creating them, we don't want to create programs that are already existing or may exist in the future, but that we are supporting them, and even broadening that. The one thing that does come to my mind is water and sewer. We talk about that a lot. And as a renewable source, maintaining those infrastructures. So thinking that in the future, it could behoove the city to have some energy efficient incentives, like toilets and showers, or whatever it is that makes sense to support those measures for the water and sewer infrastructure. And that's just one example. But I could see that there could be benefit there if it wasn't that the city was creating it, but maybe more that we're supporting those.
Yeah, so to not throw this completely out, you could just simply strike create local and put the word support in there, right?
Mhm.
So rather than create local incentives, just support incentives for home and business owners. That kind of leaves the door wide open. If as we see opportunities come in, if there happens to be grant programs, we can announce them. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So rather than us trying to outright, say we're going to do it, and then we have no idea how we're going to fund it.
Can we include language in there as well? You have insulation upgrades, appliance replacement, weatherization programs, but would it make sense to also include language in there for, and I don't have the exact words off the top of my head, but something for water
and sewer upgrades
Yeah.
or something? Yeah, totally.
Excellent.
And then for R2.2, you're removing install EV charging stations, but still promoting energy efficient heating systems and exploring low emission community shovel services. So I guess looking at this, it's like R2.1 is more the big picture. R2.2 is more of like a overall community, and R2.3 is an individual level. That's how everybody else is seeing this as well. So on the community side of things of the R2.2, promoting energy efficient heating systems and exploring low. I could see where, like you said, Mr. Mayor, maybe they can be combined, or maybe that just needs to be vetted out language wise, more of the city promoting, energy efficiency within city facilities and exploring low emission I mean, is that something we want to get into, is shuttling people around for events? Something to look at there.
Yeah, I think we need some wordsmithing to kind of get these back back into what we're thinking here, I guess.
I can get together with Britta if that makes sense and workshop some things.
Yeah, and obviously we're going to have a couple more opportunities to review this as we, once these get wordsmithed, I think we'll have a little clearer path on a lot of these.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
how long are we planning on going tonight? Sorry.
I think we're down to the last one of these.
Okay.
Was there a bunch more stuff we wanted to still go through, or was this was kind of the task? Yeah, I think we've only got one left here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If I may, Ms. Mayor, are we all right to proceed to this last action item?
Yes.
Thank you. So this is still in the resiliency bucket, maintain robust emergency management systems. The goal, as currently listed, is provide annual training to staff, volunteers, and partner agencies and keep emergency equipment up to date. The comment that we received from the Planning Commission on this goal was, does keeping emergency equipment up to date relate to purchasing and CIP? Is the city of Seldovia providing / acquiring the training? Who are the partner agencies?
Heidi, probably let you take this one. I mean, obviously, I think some of this, well, yeah, some of this we've obviously addressed in CIP. Some of these things are smaller in nature, but yeah, overall, I mean, I think the intent of this is certainly we need to keep this one in here.
Through the mayor, yes, thank you. So we do have, for instance, the support of the Seldovia Volunteer Fire Department radio upgrade project in the CIP, and we've been working with the department very closely on updating in their repeater. So that's actually on its way. It has been shipped, as well as the communication pathway between Homer and Seldovia. We do also work with the department to encourage training. We could get better. I mean, I think that there's a purpose to having this in the plan, with making sure that we're having annual training on the regular. We do different smaller trainings, but it could be that we are providing or acquiring the training. Or it could be that we are partnering with others to provide the training, and we do both. So I guess that makes me think where that question again is going is the scope. So it's that the action is to provide annual training. So maybe we're supporting annual training, to provide or support annual training. Because it's not always us that's providing it. We're just ensuring that it's happening.
that it's getting, I'm thinking of our tsunami upgrades that we do with that, that was a major deal that you guys got involved in, and
that's through the borough.
through the borough. Yeah.
So support and provide, or provide and support.
Yeah. Provide or support. Yeah.
Yeah. If that's the intent of that comment, that makes sense. It's not always us that's providing or acquiring it, but we are definitely supporting it.
Yeah, and so you answered, who are the partner agencies? It's the borough.
State.
State, it could be FEMA, it could be,
City of Home.
Absolutely.
Seldovia Village Tribe.
Yep.
So, and I can, if we need a better list, Britta, I can get that to you as well. But those are the kind of the main ones: KPB, State, FEMA, SVT, City of Homer.
Yep. Perfect. Okay. Any other comments from anyone on that one?
So we have to-
Okay, Britta, you're good with that? I know Heidi's
I-
taking notes here too.
And I guess I want to just state a reminder to the council that this is not the conclusion of your opportunity to give feedback on the plan draft as it currently is. That we, or I guess by we, I mean Heidi, is receiving written feedback on the plan through October 14th is what we currently have scheduled, and we are open to adjusting that date as well. But and Heidi, I guess if you want to speak to that process, I don't think there's any more than what I've just shared, but I don't want to speak for you.
Through the mayor, yes, thank you, Britta. So this was such a great conversation, I feel. I hope you guys found value in it. But I do want to remind everybody that this is just a portion of the plan that there were already questions on. So there's real value in going back through, just kind of like we did with the goal R2 and looking at that goal as a whole. And just looking at each one of those. There is a table on them, if it's helpful, that starts in your packet on page 47 of 105. So not expecting anybody to do this tonight, but this will take you through all of the goals are on the left side, and then the actions are in the middle there, and then what those timelines are and the partners. So giving that a real review, I mean, get you going down to redlining individual words, whatever it is that you see that doesn't make sense, because this is hopefully going to be a workable plan that will carry the community forward for a couple of generations, at least one generation. And so just really as many eyes as we can get on it, and providing that feedback has a real importance and value. So with that in mind, if you have any questions on it, if you want to meet on it, I'm happy to go over any of these items with you, and we can problem solve and dig in, go deeper individually and one-on-one with council members, as well as you find things, if you email them to me, I will make sure that they get to Britta and Danielle with AML so that they're incorporated. The goal is to have a final draft by the end of October, and then being able to put that out to the community for a public review. Do you guys, so following up with that, do you guys want to see the updated draft with these changes before it goes to the public? We could set a work session at the end of October, beginning of November. Maybe at end of October might be a little zealous with the design, because they're gonna also do some designing of the plan to make it.
Yeah, I think if we
Pretty.
could just get a written draft of
I
it.
think you ought to wait till the election's over with before we have this discussion.
Yeah, have a,
So because to see who's gonna be the new council members.
so if you guys get me your comments back, then we can have opportunity when we have the updated plan for the new council members to review that and have a work session maybe early November.
Yeah, I think that'll be good.
Okay. Does that work for you, Britta?
Through the mayor, sure does.
All right. Anybody else, any questions, comments before we wrap it up here tonight? Jack?
One of the things on renewable energy, I've been building a hangar at the airport, and I'm going to use an Arctic heat pump for in-floor heatings. But Hugh Smith has an older DOT building out there. He has a heat pump, and he told me that it lowered his cost 52% based on local fuel prices. So, those could be things that, and then the thermal wells at the Seldovia house, they eliminated all the fuel completely. Their electric goes up, but not, so their bill is considerably lower now for energy there. But it's just something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, Randy?
I just have one question on, when we have plans and we do a follow-up and then we review plans. And so I would ask if we could have something that, what is our end in mind? So with all these things we're saying, what we're doing, and we've got information about partners and things, but are we clear about what we're trying to accomplish so that when we review them, we have a consistent understanding of what that is, so that when we're reviewing how far we've come on our plan, that we are able to review that periodically and know what that is. And we've had conversations about champions and responsibilities. Some of the things are fairly specific and they can go get attached to somebody's job responsibilities. Some of them are more broad, but it's just how we look at this so that when we're reviewing it, it can be done timely and we have a common understanding about what's successful. And I think we'll probably get information about that when we're talking with the community. And so as all this is coming together, if we can just have that as one of our things that we have in mind so that we can actually assess how we're doing in a good way where we're all kind of on board on what we're expecting.
Okay, yep, makes sense. I think when you guys are going over some of the wordsmithing stuff too, just to do a double check on a number of those to, make sure, that the action items are as clear as we can make them. So for sure. Nobody online from the public, Liz. Any other hands?
I'm not seeing any, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
There's nobody.
sounds good. Britta, Danielle, thank you guys for attending again. Much appreciated. Yeah, that was certainly helpful I think to all of us, and hopefully you guys will get a few more comments, and we'll just keep the ball rolling. I think this whole thing will be definitely worthwhile in the end when we get our new updated final document. So. All right, if there's nothing else, thanks for the public who attended tonight. And with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the work session. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.